across this great nation, almost everyone has been affected in one way or another by this tomato onslaught. Mrs. Williams, I understand your husband is missing.
Yes,
Do you think he's dead?
Well,
Will you miss him?
Well,
Will you marry again? What if he's laying in a ditch somewhere, with both his legs broken, calling your name? You will have to find another man, you know. You're no spring chicken.
Attack of the Killer Tomato.
What you're seeing now is a real movie trailer for a 1978 American parody film called Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. The movie is meant to be a spoof of the B-movie genre that was prevalent in the 60s and 70s. Made on a budget of less than $100,000, the story involves tomatoes becoming sentient by unknown means and revolting against humanity. The box office success of this film, combined with its cult status, gave rise to 3 more sequels in the future.
10 years ago, a motion picture became the most notorious cult movie of all time.
The Turn of the Killer Tomatoes.
With Return of the Killer Tomatoes being produced 10 years later, in 1990, Fox Kids Television adapted the franchise into an animated television series. In this show, serving as a sequel to the original film, a mad scientist, Dr. Putrid T. Gangrene, and his associate Igor Smith are turning tomatoes in the town of Zanzucchini into monsters. The evil doctor faces off against a young John Finletter and his friends. One, a secretly human hybrid tomato pretending to be a teenage girl, and another pretending to be a dog. And even though this series was short-lived, it did live long enough for THQ to acquire a license to make a video game based on this cartoon. This game would be vastly different from another version released in 1986 for the Amstrad MSX and ZX Spectrum by Global Software, and although both would be published by THQ, the NES and Game Boy game would also be different as well. I can't speak about the 1986 version or even the Nintendo Entertainment System version, except that I've tried them both and they are very different from the Game Boy version. However, the Game Boy version does hold a special place in the nostalgia of my childhood, as this is one of the only games I owned for the Game Boy back in the day, and this game accompanied me on many road trips throughout the 1990s. The game starts off simply enough with a catchy tune that I think is supposed to mimic the theme of the cartoon TV show, but I also noticed while playing that trailer that it kinda matches that too, at least the one from 1978. The game starts off with some expositional dialogue from the news reporter from the cartoon show, and then you jump into the game. Again, one of the things I like about this game is that I like the catchy soundtrack that accompanies each of the levels. Back in the day, before I had a Walkman or a portable CD player, I was forced to listen to the music of a game that I was actually playing, and I would usually do that by plugging in headphones into the Game Boy so it wouldn't annoy my parents throughout a 12-hour car trip of hearing this same song. Moving through the level, the first thing you may notice is that the game kind of scrolls along a bit slowly, and the character moves a bit stiff and floaty. This is definitely to your detriment throughout the entire game, and believe me it took me many playthroughs to master the gameplay, as the character control I really have never actually gotten fully used to. The Game Boy actually does utilize all the buttons of the controller by assigning each button a different move. One button allows you to kick and the other allows you to jump. If you press the start button, it will pause the game, but if you press the select button by itself, it will let you skateboard for a little while. This becomes incredibly useful as each level is on a timer, and you have to find a special can of tomato sauce in each level, as well as reach the exit in time, otherwise you die and have to start the level over from the beginning. Other than that, that's pretty much it. The progression of gameplay does not really get much more advanced than that, and I wouldn't expect it to be on a portable handheld system from 1989. In terms of enemy variety, each one is supposed to be a different type of tomato, ranging from something as plain as a walking tomato to a tomato that looks like it has bat wings. I don't know why, but my favorite tomato has always been the one that wears a sombrero and shoots out lightning. Once you get about a third of the way through the game, you will fight a boss, get another third through the game, and you will fight the first boss, followed by the second boss, and at the end of the game, you can imagine you play the first boss, followed by the second boss, and then a final boss. If you are patient and persistent enough, you can get through this game in about 20 to 30 minutes. However, on your first playthrough, be prepared to be annoyed through the clunky controls and inconsistent slowdown based on how many enemies are on the screen. And although I'm not a particularly big fan of the Game Boy sound chip, I really think it was utilized well here. Just listen to a couple samples from the game. So would I recommend this title to gamers today? I really don't think they're going to have the same fondness for this title that I do. I would recommend playing through it at least once. The game title itself is a bit mediocre, but I think the catchy soundtrack and the concept of fighting mutant tomatoes kinda keeps bringing me back to this title. And if you grew up during this time frame, this will hopefully bring you back to a time when you had to pass by the time in either doctors' waiting rooms, road trips, or even when avoiding social interaction at family functions. If you like this video and you'd like to help out with future projects on this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Also, if you enjoy the content of this channel, please remember to click on this subscribe button. Again, I want to thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.